Harrison Ford walked onto the set of The View with the sort of weathered charm and quiet confidence that audiences had admired for decades. The studio erupted in applause, fans cheering the man who had embodied legends from Indiana Jones to Han Solo. As the music faded, Joy Behar extended a hand with her signature smirk, welcoming Harrison with a playful jab about his famously gruff demeanor. "Look who decided to grace us with his presence," she joked. "Did you fly yourself here, or did you let Chewbacca take the wheel this time?" The audience chuckled, and Harrison leaned into the mic with a subtle grin. "I only let Chewie drive when traffic's bad." The mood was light, the laughter genuine. They started with talk about the upcoming Indiana Jones sequel, and Harrison delivered a few sly, sarcastic one-liners about stunt doubles, hip replacements, and how archaeology was never this dusty until my knees got old. Whoopi Goldberg threw in a few quips of her own, egging him on about needing a walker with a whip holster, while Sarah N. asked about what it was like working with a new generation of co-stars. Everything moved smoothly, with Harrison poking fun at himself in that dry way he does, disarming, real, seemingly bulletproof. Then Joy, with a mischievous glint in her eye, pivoted sharply. "So Harrison, you've always had this reputation," Joy began, adjusting her glasses as she turned her gaze toward him. "You're the tough guy, the rebel, the pilot, but off-screen some folks say you're a little difficult to work with. Temperamental, even dismissive of press and fans. Do you think that's fair?" A noticeable shift rippled through the studio, but sharp. Harrison's smile faltered just a touch, and he leaned back in his chair. "I think people like to talk," he said coolly. "I do my job. I don't dance for applause." The audience gave a nervous chuckle, unsure if it was humor or a brush-off. Joy didn't let up. "Sure, but there was that interview a few years ago where you told a journalist to go to hell when they asked about your divorce, and another one where you walked out because they asked about your politics." Ford's expression hardened slightly. "I've never been interested in celebrity gossip or personal exposés. If I wanted to have my dirty laundry aired, I'd go on reality TV." Joy cocked her head. "But isn't it part of being a public figure, to engage with the people who've followed your work for decades?" He shrugged. "Engagement doesn't mean surrendering my life." The tension in the room thickened. "But don't you think there's a double standard?" Joy pressed. "Male actors get to be stoic, mysterious, while women are expected to be charming and open. You come off as grumpy, and it's cool. A woman does it, and suddenly she's difficult." Ford raised an eyebrow, visibly irritated now. "Are you interviewing me, or putting me on trial?" The audience was now dead silent. Whoopi subtly shifted in her seat. "We're just talking," Joy replied, trying to keep her tone breezy. "This is The View. After all, people tune in for honesty, not fluff." Harrison scoffed. "Honesty is one thing, ambush is another." Joy leaned forward. "I'm not ambushing you, Harrison, but you have to admit you've built a career on being unreachable. You rarely do interviews, you keep everything close to the chest. Some might say that's outdated in this age of transparency." He gave a clipped smile. "And some might say constantly talking doesn't mean you're saying anything real." There was an audible murmur in the crowd, half in awe, half in disbelief. Sarah N. tried to lighten the moment with a joke about Harrison needing a chill pill, but it fell flat. The studio's atmosphere was shifting fast, like a sudden pressure drop before a storm. Joy saw the reaction and doubled down. "You've been accused of being emotionally distant, even in your roles. There's this running joke that Harrison Ford only has two expressions, annoyed and more annoyed." Harrison laughed, but it was hollow. "You ever think maybe I'm just tired of playing the circus?" Joy blinked. "The circus?" He nodded slowly. "This the probing, the performance after the performance. You invite me here to talk about my film, and now I'm defending my personality on national television." Joy wasn't backing down. "But don't you think audiences have the right to know the person behind the legend?" Harrison shook his head. "No, they have the right to see the work. That's what I'm proud of. That's what matters." The tension snapped tighter like a rope being pulled from both ends. Whoopi looked like she was about to interject, but Harrison was already leaning in, voice firm, deeper than before. "I'm not here to bare my soul for clicks. I came here to talk about my movie. If you wanted a confessional, you should have booked someone else." The room buzzed with an electric silence, the kind that precedes either an apology or an explosion. Joy, unfazed, folded her arms. "It's 2025. Harrison, the world's changed. People expect more than just stoic silence. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's connection." Harrison smirked, but his eyes were steely now. "That's not vulnerability. That's voyeurism dressed up as depth." A few gasps from the audience. Joy replied, "Well, you've certainly made your walls clear. Do you ever wonder if keeping everything so private makes you harder to relate to?" He leaned forward again, eyes locked. "I'm not here to be relatable. I'm not a social media brand. I'm an actor. I act." The air was razor sharp now, cutting through the facade of daytime TV, cheer like a blade. Sarah gave a quiet okay then, trying to break the tension, but it was too late. Joy, staring him down, offered one final remark. Maybe the legend is just a man hiding behind silence. Harrison stood up. The gesture was abrupt, deliberate, and maybe this interview is over. A collective gasp filled the studio. He removed his mic, placed it gently on the table, and without another word, turned and walked off stage. The camera scrambled to follow him, cutting between stunned co-hosts and the iconic figure, exiting without looking back. Whoopi stood halfway, uncertain whether to chase after him or let it go. "Well," she said, into the silence, "that was Harrison Ford. Ladies and gentlemen." The audience clapped awkwardly, unsure whether to treat the moment as serious or staged. Joy gave a half smile, lips tight, clearly unrepentant. "We ask tough questions here. We don't apologize for that." Anna Navarro, who'd been quiet throughout, finally spoke. "But sometimes the line between a question and a provocation gets blurred." Joy waved it off. "He's a big boy. He can handle it." Still, attention lingered not just on set, but in the reaction that exploded online within minutes. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, everywhere was ablaze with debate. Some praised Joy for cutting through celebrity arrogance. Others called it a character assassination. Clips were already going viral. Harrison Ford saying, "I'm not here to be relatable." Joy firing back with, "Maybe the legend is just a man hiding behind silence." The exchange was a cultural flashpoint. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Ford's publicist was in a quiet panic. They hadn't anticipated this. The interview was meant to be light promotion, a brief stop on a whirlwind press tour. Instead, it became a lightning rod. Ford didn't return to the green room. He went straight to the car, declined all further press for the day. His PR team issued a vague statement about creative differences and mutual respect, but the damage or the publicity was done. Joy, on the other hand, was In the next segment, she joked about scaring off Han Solo and suggested that maybe Indiana Jones finally found a temple he didn't want to explore. The live audience laughed, but the vibe had changed. It was no longer a cozy rant. It was something raw, more combustible. Producers debated whether to re-edit the segment before it aired, but ultimately decided to keep it intact. Controversy was ratings gold, and they were right. By the end of the night, every major entertainment outlet had picked up the story. Harrison Ford storms off The View. Joy Behar grills Harrison, the interview that broke the internet. The moment had entered the cultural bloodstream. Days later, the media frenzy hadn't let up. Think pieces emerged debating the ethics of confrontational journalism, celebrity privacy, and the expectations we place on public figures. Was Harrison right to walk out? Was Joy right to challenge him? Lines were drawn, hashtags trended, hashtag Team Harrison and hashtag Team Joy. Meanwhile, Ford remained characteristically silent. No follow-up statement, no tweets, no interviews. That silence spoke volumes. To some, an extension of the man's boundaries. To others, it was arrogance. His fans defended him fiercely. Critics called him outdated, a relic of a time when stars could hide behind mystique. Joy did a follow-up segment addressing the backlash. "I didn't invite Harrison Ford here to tear him down. I asked questions. He chose to walk." But there was something colder in her tone, more calculated. She knew what the moment had become: viral, polarizing, potent, and she wasn't backing down. She didn't need to. The clip had over 20 million views and counting. The next week, Ford returned to the press circuit cautiously. No daytime shows, no live interviews, only tightly controlled appearances. But the shadow of the View incident followed him. Fans would yell, "Don't walk off." During red carpet events, late-night hosts poked fun, memes exploded. One showed Indiana Jones running from a giant Joy Behar face. Another showed Harrison sitting stone-faced with the caption, "I'm not here to be relatable." The phrase had taken on a life of its own. People used it as ironic defense in online debates. It was merchandised on mugs, hoodies, and TikTok bios. The moment had transcended the interview. It had become a symbol. Whether of integrity or obstinance depended on who you asked. And despite the noise, neither Joy nor Harrison ever spoke to each other again. No reconciliation, no clarification, just two people who collided on live television and walked away in opposite directions. They were right, each unwilling to look back. And maybe that's what made the moment unforgettable. Not its resolution, but its refusal to offer one.